Uh, but yeah, so the thing I kind of got extra interesting about when we talked was the conversion part. And you also said that compared to the other talent manager, like my roster is like conversion focused. So I'm like, yeah, I want to know all about that. But yeah, why do you think specifically your pool of creators has that focus and can actually convert sales? What do you say?
Well, I think with our roster, like we work with a lot of, I call them like old school bloggers. So women that started blogging 10 years ago and spent a lot of time building a community. Um, you know, Affiliate revenue was sort of the first way for you to be able to make money and monetize your blogs. Brand partnerships didn't really exist because brands were still very kind of like passe about bloggers. Um, so, they started their careers building and monetizing off of affiliate revenue, and they've trained their audiences to shop with them over the last decade. And so their audience really trusts them and comes to them for recommendations when it comes time to shop. And so I think just kind of building a career over the last decade on affiliate revenue and prioritizing affiliate as a revenue stream for their business has just, served them really well and now positions them to be in a place where they're able to convert really strongly for brands.
I see. So they are like the old school, used to work with all the affiliate links when kind of story links that didn't even exist. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
see.
Pre-story links. They're looking at like blog insertions and like maybe newsletter if you were really ahead of the game back then. But
But what else can you, because I can sometimes feel like when I watch certain stories, I can feel like this is not a sales converter, if we can call them that.
yeah.
And some are like really good at like talking about products and like, really selling it. What do you look at in the content, or if we look at like your creators, what do they do in their content that kind of makes them like a great salesperson? What do you say?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things. I think trust is key, and they've been able to build that trust with their community over the last however long they've been doing it. I think they never really put forth product recommendations that they can't stand behind. And also they're really great about sharing products that didn't work for them and that they maybe have ordered and purchased and said, actually, this was not a win and this did not work and don't recommend. So I think that's important that you're kind of shedding light on like these are the life-changing things that have been great for me, and then these are things that maybe you've seen on the internet that aren't really worth the hype. And so I think that builds a little bit of trust.
Yeah.
I think they also create from this lens that providing a link to somebody is actually providing an immense amount of value to their community. I think there was maybe a generation of influencers and creators that felt like link peddling was kind of like icky in a sort. And I actually find that you're providing a service for your audience by providing the link. You're solving a problem for them. If you're introducing them to a product that you think has been like life changing or has, made your life better, don't make your audience go search for it. Don't make them go to Google to be like, what is this thing? Now I have to type it in and you've created too many steps. And like, I just want to know what the thing is. And so by providing them with the link, you're taking extra work off of their plate. If they purchase it, great. If they don't, that's okay too. But at least you've taken the work out from them. And so you'll see in the way that people think about, how they're creating content. Like it might just be a photo of like their morning coffee, but they're linking their coffee pot that they use every single morning because they're raving about it. And they're like, this is the best coffee. Like I've gone through 3 or 4 different pots. This is the best one. It gets the best brew. I want you to link that for me because I want the coffee pot that's going to give me the best brew. So I think thinking about how they pull together content, that it's very rare that they'll ever just post a photo of like their morning coffee, or, if they're doing just doing like an outfit of the day in front of like a beautiful scenery, if they're on vacation, like people want to know where you got the dress from. I want to know where the coffee mug is from. So I think it's just like interesting in the way that they pull together content is they're always trying to think of like adding value for their audience and like almost being a resource for them of sorts. If you're going to be shopping for this dress or if you're looking for like a little white dress, I might as well be the one to point you in the right direction and save you some time from searching for it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they curate, I guess, for their audience. And if they know their audience, they probably know what they want to look for. And it's just a nice, yeah, like you said, resource. But I can also, yeah, I can feel the same frustration when I see something I like on Instagram and I want to buy it, but like they haven't linked, like there's no links, nothing. Like I'm like, okay, I need to figure out. I actually did that just before we jumped on a call. I like to figure out that shirt. What does it like? What's the brand? Like it's super hard. And then I like Google.
And you need to like reverse Google image search, and like that's just awful. And no one wants to do that. I think at the end of the day, like we're all consumers, you know, everybody on the internet, everybody on social media is consumers, and how much you determine that you want to buy is up to you. But I think at least providing the resource for them that should they want to purchase is available to them.
Yeah. But are they transparent in the way of like explain this is a partnership and all that? And yeah, how could that not be perceived too much like an ad, but still you need to say it? But like, how, do they have like tricks there to make it feel more authentic, or like, or is it just like you said, like they really love that product and that way it works?
Yeah. So when we think about brand partnerships and like best ways to maximize conversion, I'm really bullish on timelines that we have for these brand partnerships. So for us, like we've seen, we need to get the product early. So if we're doing, you know, if we're doing an ad for mascara, like we might ask for that mascara a month ahead of time, and we start peppering it into content. So you'll see it featured in like get ready with me's, morning stories, if they're just like getting ready for the day. Maybe they're mentioning the mascara, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just them, but it's like more of a product placement, but you're starting to see the brand sort of pop up. Maybe she does mention it. Maybe she says, you know, I just picked up this mascara. I've been testing it out. Like, I'll let you guys know. I'm headed to the beach this weekend. So, like, we'll see if it's really waterproof or not. So we really try to get that ahead of time. And then we start linking some of that stuff ahead of time too. So like she is doing a get ready with me. She might link like, here's all the products I used, and throw that in there. That way we can kind of get some, you know, organic affinity going. So when a brand partnership does go live, it's not the first time her audience has seen her talk about that product. It's not the first introduction of that brand to her audience. They've already seen her use it. She's loved it. She's been talking about it for a month. It feels less of an, you know, it feels less sponsored than if she were just to hop up on stories and be like, this is this great new mascara I just got. I love it. Like it's X, Y, and Z, you know, it's volumizing and lengthening and whatever. People are like, where is this coming from? Like you've never even talked about this brand before. Whereas, you know, it lands a lot softer, I think, if they can see that she's been using and loving the product for a while. And so I think when brands think about, you know, if your main KPI is conversion for your campaigns, buffer in a little bit of extra time for your timelines. I think, you know, getting somebody reaching out on July 1st about a product and being like, yeah, we'd love it live by like July 20th. Just like, and then like, we don't even get the product probably until like July 8th. After you ship it, we go through contracting, blah, blah, blah. Just doesn't give enough time for people to like really start working it in organically into their content. And I think it's just a great way for, you know, the way that we usually put together sponsored content is a lot of times we'll pull like audience sentiment. So like our creators will, if they're doing some of this organic stuff beforehand, they might get DMs to be like, I love that mascara too, or I just bought it last week and I'm obsessed with it. And then we can pull some of those comments and use them for like story overlays or screenshots of those DMs and include them into stories. And it just shows like, not only do I love this product, but like my community also loves this product. I think a lot of our creators also try to create from the lens of like, yes, of course, I recommend this and you're following me. And so you trust my recommendations, but also want to let you know, like community advocacy wise, like there's other women in this community and in this sphere that also like can put a stake in the ground to say like, this is a great product, which is, you know, I think just like an added extra of how we're able to convert is that we don't usually create from the lens of like, I'm obsessed with this and you should buy this. It's really, I'm obsessed with it and look at all these other women that also advocate for it too. And that's just like, I think as a consumer, probably even more convincing to see like, okay, I know her, I trust her, I like her recommendations, but also like all of these other women are putting their stamp on it too. So, and you can't do that unless you have that product early and you start talking about it and you get conversation going in the DMs or comments.
I love that. Okay, what more do you have? Like, okay, so giving the product early, that's a great tip. And also kind of inviting the audience or taking out the DMs and creating content around that to get better conversion. But what else would you say that you guys do differently compared to the classic influencers out there to get
Yeah.
better conversions?
I mean, we work a lot with our brand partners on that front when we talk about this. So, we work with a lot of D2C brands because their main KPI is conversion. But we have to be really strategic in how we make this work. So a lot of times D2C brands are, looking for they're looking for you to push purchases from their e-com site. That could be problematic if they have omni-channel distribution. So like if that product has its own e-com, but is also sold at Target, and you're only giving us, maybe a 10% discount, but you're still charging $7 for shipping. So actually, it's not really a discount. I didn't save any money because I'm actually now only paying like $2 for shipping. I think that that's just tough, especially when people can purchase it from an Amazon or a Target and they have free 2-day shipping, or they have a Target credit card and they're building points. I think it's really, really difficult to shift consumer behavior when you're looking for conversion. If it is ease and practicality, people just don't want to divert from that for like a 10% code off of your e-com site. Even if I love the influencer and even if I want to support her, I'm just like, I'm going to throw it in my Amazon cart, which is not helpful for the campaign. That sale is not attributed to the creator, obviously, even though she was the one that like maybe introduced the mascara. And so we just work a lot with our partners to be like, okay, what is our discount going to be? We're going to absolutely need to have free shipping. We cannot pay for shipping in the era of Amazon and Target and Walmart. It just can't happen.
Yeah.
And so we just talk a lot about that of like, and if they come back to us and say like, actually, like we have free shipping, but it's a threshold, but like our AOV is usually lower than what the threshold is to get to free shipping. Like sometimes they might just say like, actually, we don't know that this is like a good campaign for us. Like, love the product. Let us know if you guys ever want to ship Focus over to Amazon. Like, we can revisit that because I think we really could sell for you. But if we have to work within the confines and the parameters of what we have outlined right now, we just like, we don't think we can sell.
Yeah. But what's a good discount code usually, would you say, based on your experience?
I think 15 to 20, 10% can be great if it's a high ticket item. I think that the hard part is that like, if it's 20% item and then you get 10% off, which is like $18, and then now you pay $7 for shipping, which is like really $5. It's just an annoyance. Like people just won't do it when I can go to Amazon and buy it at the $18 and get it this afternoon. Well, they just won't. And so I think that it's really tough. And I get that like people that are working at that D2C space with omnichannel distribution are having a really hard time converting on their own e-com. And like, there's a lot of brands I feel like that have kind of like almost abandoned their own e-com. Like I feel like Love Wellness, the founder talks about this a lot, where she's like, our e-com exists because like it needs to exist and we have to have a website. It like needs to be there. And like, it's good for subscription if you want to get on subscription, but it's really not a focus for us. Like we're much more focused on driving to Walmart and to Amazon because we know that that's where our customers are. Like we felt like we like fought the battle, like this D2C ecom uphill battle, like for years, and spent all the money on paid digital media ads, spent all the money on influencers to try to drive there. And it's just like, you can't interrupt consumer behavior like that. People are always going to go for convenience and ease. And so I think that they're a great example of kind of like throwing their towel in and being like, okay, fine, we hear you. Like let's, with Amazon and Walmart it is.
But I had a talk with someone, so I don't remember who, but he said also something like that, like certain people will never change. Like they will always go directly into Amazon or whatever, marketplace, and they will be there. So whatever you do, you need to just be there where they are. And sometimes that's one type of customer you have, and then some other of your customers are maybe somewhere else. They will probably go to your e-commerce, but you cannot just change consumer behavior like you said. That's very hard. But do you then just hook up your creators with their own Amazon storefront? Is that the way to go for your clients usually? Is that a good way, like where they recommend the product on Amazon through their own curated storefront?
We've worked with some brands before that are really open to like interesting distribution channels. So like an Amazon or a Target, and we've just added them to like Amazon storefronts. And Amazon also does discount codes. So like that's a thing that also exists. And like you can run a program through Amazon. But yeah, I mean, I think that shifting over to, I think you have to meet the consumer like where they're at. And I think that you have to trust the influencer too, to be able to say, this is where my people are. And like my community is Amazon girlies, and like they don't do a lot of D2C, or they don't do a lot of e-com shopping in that way. Whereas every community is different. And some might say like, actually, yeah, like I did a poll and a lot of people shop from your website and prefer to shop from your website versus other, other channels that you have. So I think it's just trusting the creator to know kind of like they know where their audience is at too.
Yeah, for sure. And if we think about the metrics, I'm not sure if I asked about this before. Maybe we did talk about it. But I know you are very transparent with like some of the metrics you share with the brands. But what are the things that you should look at to see if a creator is actually a potential sales converter for you? Like if you look at the Instagram metrics, what would you say are the kind of the top list of things to look at and analyze?
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of outward metrics, so like things that you can see like visibility wise, as a brand that's maybe looking for influencers that might be strong converters, I would say three things. One that I think it's really great, Instagram just released the ability to see sends front facing. So now you can see likes, comments, and sends, which is amazing. They're just like, I think they're kind of slow rolling it out. I got it on my Instagram last night.
Now when you see it. Yeah, now when you see it. I love it. Okay, great.
I know, which I'm like, thank gosh, because like to me, that's the most valuable metric. Like a send to me is such a strong intent to purchase. So seeing a creator that has a lot of sends, especially if you're looking at, it's easy to have sends on like content that's just like funny or, emotional or like thought provoking, like that's different. If you're seeing sends on like a fashion creator's post who's doing like an outfit of the day, there's probably a really strong intent to purchase there, right? Because you're sending it to a friend to be like, you need to buy this. Like, this is fabulous. It would look great on you. So I'm really happy that they just released that. I think that you can look at, ManyChat is a really, really interesting integration that we started using over the last probably like 6 months or so. So ManyChat is the plugin that creators use when you'll see a creator that says like comment dress and I'll DM you the link to this dress. ManyChat is the integration that they're using for that. So it's just an automation where you put the link in the back end of ManyChat and you choose the word that people need to comment, and it will automatically DM everybody that comments a link to that dress.
Wow. Okay. I think that reminds me of some things you can set up with TikTok Live. I had a call about TikTok live streaming yesterday. But okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But then so how do you, okay, you can look at the comment section if it's a lot of.
Yeah. So if you see somebody who's getting, 500 comments that's saying like, I want this dress, clearly, again, probably at least a strong converter there. Somebody that at least, their audience is going with them to shop with them. Whether or not they're actually converting people into sales is, a different story. There's metrics you can look at that are not front facing for that. But at least you get an idea of like, okay, this community is here to shop and buy from this person. And then lastly, I would look at previous partnerships. If you see somebody who is working with a lot of D2C brands, so, a Ritual, an AG1, a Brooklinen, Seed, Probiotics, something like that. Those are all brands that are very conversion focused, and they're, they put their influencer marketing budget under the growth channel of the brand versus the brand or marketing side. And so are they working with other companies that are conversion focused? If so, you can probably guess that they're converting, especially if they have long-term partnerships with some of those brands. So those are kind of like front-facing metrics that you can look at if you're just like scouring the internet looking for people that might be a good fit for your brand. On the back end, once you reach out to a creator, like what should you ask for, I would say, to determine whether or not they're a strong creator. You'll definitely want to look at story views and story clicks, and also just like be really specific about the stories that actually have clicks. So like sometimes you'll see, if you're reaching out to a creator and they screenshot the last like 30 days of story clicks, but most of those are like a link to their blog or linking out to an external article that they saw. Like, it's not really relevant to you. It doesn't mean that they're selling anything. It just means that they're sharing information and people are interested in that information. And so just as like a cautionary tale, make sure that when you're looking at story link clicks, like it actually is a swipe up to like an item that is purchasable. I said swipe up. Sorry. I still call them swipe ups. They're sticker links, whatever. It's like the old school of me. And then you can always ask for case studies. So you can ask for, have you worked with brands in this specific category that we're in? Are you able to share previous success there? Those are case studies that we have on hand. So like if a fashion brand reaches out to us, I can send them a previous partnership that we did for another fashion brand within their same categories that can showcase, clicks and sales data for them. So I would say for creators, like arm yourself with a few case studies if you have them. Otherwise, you can always just send like a 30-day overview of whatever affiliate platform you're on. So whether that's a ShopMy or an LTK or a Howl, that can showcase clicks, order conversion, and order volume. Again, that's just a good way for you to be able to position yourself in front of the brand to showcase that you can convert or that you do have an audience that's shopping with you.
Love that. So what are the red flags then when you then look at the, I guess, front and back end? What are the red flags, the main ones that you always look for?
With like if I was a brand reaching out to a creator, what would be my red flags?
Yeah, so for example, if the likes, I don't know, if you have too few likes, or I guess likes is not so important anymore, but yeah, what are the red flags? Like, okay, this, if this happens, or if I see this, I kind of avoid the creators. I avoid working with her or him.
Yeah, I mean, I think low clicks. So if they're getting, 30,000 views on a story and they're only getting like 50 to 80 clicks, like it's just probably what they're going to end up charging you for the viewership on that story. You're never going to be able to make back in revenue just because like the viewership to link click ratio is too narrow. I would definitely be cautionary from any creator that says that like I don't share case study information, or like that's even like I've ran into it before working on the brand side where like agents will tell me like that's proprietary information, and I'm like, it's not. And it shouldn't be. If we're casting you and we're coming to you saying that like, hey, our main KPI is conversion, can this person convert? And you can't tell me or show me data that she can, well, then it doesn't really make sense. If I was coming to you and just being like, this is an awareness campaign and like we love her content and we want her to create something, fine. But if we're coming to you and saying like, hey, we have really specific ROAS goals for this campaign, this is what we're looking for, does she have a track record of being able to produce those types of ROAS goals, and you can't show me any data that is support of that is just probably not a fit. But I will also say on the flip side, like I feel like we've talked about before, is like transparency really has to go both ways. And that's like something I'm very bullish on. It's like if you are a brand coming to us and asking for transparency and metrics, you want to see our link clicks, you want to see case studies, you want to see previous affiliate data, and you're not able or willing to show us the sales that we were able to produce for you at the end of the campaign. It's just frustrating, I think. And it's really, if you're going to ask for transparency, you should share transparency. And I get it. Like it's a bargaining tool for them. Like people don't want you to know how much money you're driving for their business. Otherwise you'll charge them way more money than what you're charging. And like, I understand that. But we also kind of have, we have a general idea of how things perform based off of link clicks on our end. So like if we're, wrapping up a campaign and we're like, oh, wow, this had like 1,200 link clicks. Like I'm going to assume that maybe we converted 30 to 40% of those people based on our averages. And so like, you drove a lot of money. And so like, I'm going to use it as a bargaining tool anyway, when we talk about re-upping, like, I'm going to say, actually, like, looks like we crushed it. We'd like to be at X for this next campaign. And if you can't come back to me and be like, oh, actually, like, we weren't quite there on numbers because you don't want to share those numbers, well, then like, now we're kind of we're in a chokehold a bit, because I know what I think that we did on our end based off of the data that we're seeing. And so that's how I'm coming to you with my renegotiation. And if you're not able to share, that we're just kind of like, now we're this weird tug of war where it's just like a lot easier for us to be transparent on both sides. Say, great, like we exceeded ROAS goals. Here's where we'd like to be for the next one. I think we can exceed them again and go from there. But yeah, it's strange.
But then when it comes to the second collaboration, obviously if they are transparent and sharing this was great, let's do a second one. Can it happen that you kind of exhaust the audience, so you need to wait, or what are your recommendations there? When should you go for the second one to still get the good result? Some products maybe you only buy one time and then you don't come back, so then it's obvious. But yeah, what have you seen there when it comes to like reactivating creators?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the really hard thing about being a brand that is so focused on conversion, or if you have really specific tech goals and working in long-term partnerships. I was, on the brand side, was freelancing for a brand that was a subscription-based company, and they had very specific customer acquisition goals, and the only KPI that they had for their creators was to bring in new customers, and you do end up exhausting an audience. You can't work with, especially if that creator isn't continuously growing month over month. If you work with a creator for a year, at some point, they're going to sell as much of your product as they can sell to their audience. Like, you've tapped them, especially again, like if it only is a new customer acquisition goal, and you're not looking at leveraging their audience for like reoccurring revenue or something like that. It's a little bit easier, I think, to be in a space and work with a creator long term if you're just looking for like reoccurring revenue, depending on the product. If it's like a supplement based brand, like there probably is people that like you introduce that to and they get hooked on it for life. They're repurchasing every 30 days, and that's great. And then they're using your code every 30 days, and it's like all about reoccurring revenue. But at some point you will get to a place where it's only a customer acquisition cost where like you will exhaust audiences. And so whether that is kind of taking a break and hoping that that creator sees some growth and welcomes new people into their community and then being able to retap there. But I think that's just we have a lot of conversations with our friends that work on kind of the brand or agency side that are kind of in this acquisition space. They're like, gosh, it's like, and it's hard too. And it's like, it's difficult to part ways with a creator that you've been working with for a year or two. But it's like, if they're not converting for us anymore, we just can't continue to spend money there. And it's the difficult part about having that be your main KPI.
Yeah. But when it comes to then pricing, is it CPM you always calculate for them, or do the brands calculate CPM and determine if they're going to work with your creators based on a level, or because you are conversion focused, like is that the metric to look at when you gonna determine if it's a good price to go with any type of creators, or what would you say is a good metric to kind of compare the price? Because there's no price structure out there, obviously, but like to kind of understand if it's overpaying or a good rate you got.
Yeah. So we typically work with brands on like specific goals that they have. So like sometimes we work on a customer acquisition cost. Usually we're working on just like a return on ad spend. So if they come to us and say, hey, we need to 2x this campaign for us to see it as a success, my question is always, okay, what is your AOV, so your average order value? That way I can get an idea of how many orders do we need to fulfill in order for us to be at the return on ad spend that they need to be at. And then I can think about what we would do for either a scope of work and what the fee would be for that, because all of my creators sort of convert at a different rate. I have some creators that a 2x on a return on ad spend is really easy for them. I have some creators that are closer to a 1x, and I have some creators that are closer to a 4x. So it really just depends on like the return on the ad spend that they're looking for and what their average order value is. It's really difficult to have an average order value of, and we end up passing a lot of campaigns. So like we have a creator right now who her story rate is 3,000 based on views, based on typically where she converts at. if they come to us and say, we need a 2x on this, so 6,000, but your average order value is $15, well, like you're asking us to move hundreds of product in a single Instagram story. And it's just, we just can't end that. It might be something where we need to look at like multiple touch points. So can we break that story up and do a frame here and a frame there? So a lot of it is just trying to think. It's like playing Tetris with numbers a lot of the time. But in that instance, we might just say like, hey, actually, like, we don't really think this is a fit for us. Like, it's not something that we think that, we could be successful at based off of the goals that you have. And so it's really less around like CPM. It's more so around, okay, what are we looking at? How are we measuring success? And what do goals look overall? And do we think that this is a metric that we can hit? So I just have a lot of conversations with my creators too about, we just had one come through the other day and they were looking for a 2x. And so to drive 15K in revenue. And I was like, does this feel feasible for you? Like, does your audience, are they excited about this brand? Like, is this something that you think that you could convert at? And she's like, yeah, actually, like, we could crush that. So yeah, it just really depends.
But what's the minimum AOV then? Is it like $50 or to make it to make it work? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the creator and their rates. So I have some creators that might be charging only like $1,000 a story. So like a $15 AOV doesn't really feel that crazy to them. Whereas I have some creators that are charging $4,500 a story. So a $15 AOV is going to be like really, really tough for them to get to. So it just really depends on how much we're charging.
And what's a good ROAS or in general, like based on your experience now, like what can you expect? I mean, obviously some will come to you and like, I want 5x, but that's not even possible. But what would you say? What should big expectations be from brands when it comes to ROAS?
I think that it's unrealistic to ask for a 2x now. I think like 2x in like 2019 and 2020, when people were literally glued to the internet, we were all in COVID and people were doing nothing but shopping, like, sure. But I think that people consume content a lot differently. I think TikTok has changed the way that we consume content. People don't want to be sold to, whereas I feel like during COVID, like we were all just watching Instagram stories and swiping and swiping and swiping and buying it because, filling voids. We're trying to fill the void with things. And so I think that a 2x is just really, really, really tough. Now, I don't know a lot of brands that are getting a 2x on their influencer marketing anymore. I think most people are really looking to break even, and most brands are adding whitelisting or some sort of paid media push behind that in order to get them above a 1x. So we've actually started to talk a lot about like, can we look at a blended return on ad spend that is part organic from the story that we're doing and part paid from the paid media that you're putting behind it? Because a lot of times like this does perform better in paid media. And a lot of brands are coming to us now saying like, we want to use this content mostly for paid media, like happy to pay to get it in front of our audience. And like, hopefully we see some organic stuff coming through, but like most of this is going to come from paid and we know that. So, I think you're looking to break even really at this point. And then you're looking to leverage paid media to get you above that. I don't see a lot of brands doing 2x anymore. It is tough. We can still do it. We still have some creators that do it and do it easily. But they're unicorns now, honestly.
Yeah. But what else can you do if you can only get like break even? Obviously you said you can leverage, put the ad spend and push, but what else can you do? You talked about long term. Is that the way to go and build up the trust, or what else can you do to hopefully get the return after maybe 6 months or 12 months?
Yeah. I think long-term partnerships are always going to be helpful for converting. I think we go back to the old school rule of like marketing 101. We need 7 touch points with the brand before we convert. And I don't think that that's that far off, truly. I think it's really rare, for us. I think we sometimes get lost that like we are all consumers and we kind of need to come back to ourselves every once in a while and be like, is this how we shop? Like, how often do we swipe up in the moment to purchase something? Rarely. Like, I don't think I've really ever done it unless it's like a $5 something from Amazon. And so most of the time, like we're screenshotting it, referencing it later. it's really, really rare that we're kind of like in the moment shopping. And so I think if you can build out like longer scopes of work or even multiple touch points, so like, can we throw this in a Substack? Or, can we put it in a newsletter? Can we do a story and then do a follow-up frame, maybe a week later? It feels like a little bit more organic. We've seen really good success in setting up stories that way, where we'll do a full set of stories where we talk about how much we love the product and we go into all the messaging and all that good stuff. Great. And then we'll follow up like a week later with just like a still shot of, that mascara on our vanity and just like, hey, don't forget, like my code still works for this. I still love it. We actually see a lot stronger conversion on those like organic follow-up frames that we do on the full set of stories. Again, because people don't want to be sold to. And I think like we have this idea where like people like hop on face to camera. We're like, okay, here we go. What do you sell it? But somehow brands like have convinced themselves that like that works and they will not detour from that format, which is like probably a conversation for another time. But we see a lot stronger conversion and clicks and engagement on these kind of like organic story posts that we do later. So I think being like a little bit creative too, and like how you're structuring content. Like we've seen it before. We've done one on TikTok where like we have done a product placement video. So like again, just doing like a get ready with me. And she's like using the mascara in that get ready with me. And we pull a comment that is either organic or like staged from the brand that she could then stitch that says, oh, wait, what was that mascara? And now she's stitching it and talking about the mascara. And so like there's like funky creative ways that you can get around it too. But I think you have to be a little bit more creative in how you pull together content and less like, do a 30-second ad spot about our mascara. Like that's always going to bomb.
Yeah. Wow, I feel like we can talk for an hour more because you know a lot, and I honestly like brands that are listening. They should definitely contact you and even do a collaboration, because I think just doing collaboration with you and your creators will probably give them a lot of different ideas on how to kind of run the actual ad, because I think many are stuck in the old way of pushing like the 30-second ad spot, like you just said. And I think there's a lot of different things you can do around it to get the ROAS you want.
I agree. I think like it's so frustrating for me as somebody that's been in this industry for so long to hear this conversation of, well, we tried influencer marketing and it didn't work for us. And it's like, well, no, you actually probably just didn't try it in the way that you should have. Like, you probably went after a mega creator and paid all of this money and they brought in like 2 sales and you're like, influencer marketing doesn't work. And I'm like, no, you spend irresponsibly. Like that mega creator was never going to convert for you. That's not their purpose. They have never trained their audience to buy from them. And people are probably following them because they enjoy their lifestyle, their personality, or whatever the case might be. It's very different. They serve a different purpose in your marketing funnel. So that's kind of like my biggest pet peeve. I'm like, this can work and this does convert and people do build their businesses off of affiliate and off of creator. It's just, you have to be really smart and strategic in who you work with and know how to sort of source people who might be strong converters for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also with the boom when everyone wanted to start with influencer marketing without knowing anything, I think it's a lot of things that maybe they haven't done correctly, and then they kind of give up, and they go back to Meta and Google, and they're stuck in their hands. And whenever they change anything or everything becomes more expensive, the whole machine or whatever you call it just doesn't work. So yeah, it's risky too. So I think it makes sense to do it right. But yeah, anything else like as a final point that you would you want to share with brands and founder out there around the conversion part?
Anything else? I think it's really, really possible for you to find people that are, strong converters for your brand. I would say like cautionary tales and like ways not to turn creators off when you do outreach. Nobody wants to work for free. And so I think, doing outreach that's like, we'd love to gift you this product. And if you post about it and we see sales, then we can talk about, renewing for a paid partnership is just gross and icky. And like, no one's going to do that. There's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, we'd love to send you this product. If you like it and if you happen to post about it and your audience sees a great reaction, like we'd love to talk about like partnering together. Like we see ourselves wanting to work with you. We like your style, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's definitely a difference. We get so many emails that are like, oh, we have to start with gifting first and see if it converts to see if we can pay you. And I'm like, why am I going to like, also like you're giving us like a 7% commission or something like terrible. And I'm like, this is awful. Your product costs $10. We're making a 7 cents on it or whatever. Like this makes like, we would never do that. And so I think, being smart and also tactful about how you approach creators, there's definitely a way that you can talk about, there's some creators that will take a smaller story fee, flat fee up front if you give a bigger commission. So if you're a smaller brand and you're like, we don't have a ton of budget, but like we can pay 60% of your story rate or 70% of your current story rate and then make up for that by a really high commission of like 30 or 40% or something like that. That's much more interesting to us. And not every creator is going to go for that, but somebody who's maybe a really strong converter might be like, yeah, I'll make more money doing that anyway than I would on my flat fee. That's much more interesting than saying like, oh, we have to actually make sure that you can sell our product before you pay us for it or pay you for it. And I'm like, that's just wild.
I love it. Great that you mentioned that. Hopefully you won't get too many of those emails in the future. But yeah, I think that will hopefully move on and people will realize they need to kind of pay something, at least if it's bigger creators that are already converting for other brands. But nice, Molly. It was great talking to you. Thanks for sharing all this, like a lot of great insights.
Oh, I'm so happy to. Thank you so much for having me. It's fun. This is like one of my favorite subjects. So